Hey, what's up? This is Phoenix and welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited because today I'm going to talk about Plato as part of my ongoing Philosopher Series, and I'm specifically going to talk about notions of truth. I'm very excited to discuss Plato and to discuss other philosophers in this series. If you want to watch the other episodes in the series and keep up to date, definitely subscribe for more quality content, and definitely check out the playlist as well, which you can find on the playlist tab to be able to find the Philosopher Series. Now, you might be wondering who Plato is. Plato was an ancient Greek philosopher who has had a remarkable influence on human thought throughout the ages, and Whitehead described Plato as everything being a footnote to Plato, Whitehead of which was a modern contemporary philosopher of science. And it's very interesting to think about how a lot of our philosophical questions come from Plato. Now, you might be wondering what kind of work Plato wrote, and that is a valid question. He wrote many books, and they were often dialogues. And the dialogues feature the interlocutor Socrates, who I talked about previously on this channel and in the Philosopher Series, which I encourage you to check out. But there is also Plato, who is the actual writer of these dialogues, who is the kind of like mastermind, you could call him, who is engaging with these ideas and projecting and describing these ideas and creating them in these wonderful dialogues. And so I definitely encourage you to check them out. His most famous one being The Republic, which has forever influenced the way that we look at politics and democracy. So I encourage you to check that out. So what is truth to Plato? This is a very valid question, and I would say that the truth for Plato is something that goes beyond the mere appearances of things, the mere way in which things look. There's actually a term for this, which is the term essence of which is defined as the way that something is. And often in philosophy you find the notion of essentialism, which deals with notions of essence and what essence can be. Essentialism is often contrasted with existentialism, in that essentialism is about the essence of things, or the way that things really, really are, while existentialism is about the existence of things and creating your own reality as you move along through life. So what does this mean? Does this mean that every day in our reality we are not seeing truth? Does it mean that we are only seeing the appearances of things and the way that things appear to us? That is a very valid question, and it certainly reminds me of Book 7 in The Republic, which talks about the allegory of the cave, which is definitely an interesting way of looking about things. You might remember the opening quote, which was the following: "To them, the truth would be literally nothing but the shadows of images." And this is definitely an interesting idea in terms of thinking about how the things that we see are not the things as they really, really are. So for a moment, I'm going to describe the allegory of the cave. So sit back, relax, and let's get going with this thought exploration, and let's see what is possible. So the allegory of the cave. Imagine you are in a cave and you can't see behind you. You can only see what's ahead of you. And imagine that in this cave, projected on the wall, there are all of these images. Now, of course, these images are two-dimensional, but you are not aware of this at the time. To you, in fact, all of this is truth. To you, all of this is reality. All that you see, even though it is two-dimensional and it is projected on the wall and is thus only an appearance of things, it is all that you know, and it is all that you see reality as being. But then, through contemplation, imagine yourself seeing the world expand, and imagine yourself moving towards what could be called the light of reason, or the exit of the cave. Imagine that you are exiting the cave, and therefore seeing the light of reason and the light of contemplation, and you realize that these images that you see are false. They are mere appearances. They are not reality. And think about how whenever you move towards the three-dimensional world, you realize that things are much more bright and vibrant and real than you ever thought. I would describe this as capturing Plato's philosophy in a nutshell, especially when thinking about the notion of truth. Truth is not something that is immediately apparent to us, but is something that can be apprehended through thought and through contemplation. And this is very important, because often whenever we look at things, we often see them as being reality as fixed or seeing reality as that is the only thing that it is. And that makes it difficult for us to even think about how reality is much more complicated and dynamic than we would ever give it credit for. And so that appearance of things is not the same as the essence of a thing. The appearance is the superficial, the appearance is what is immediately apprehended through the senses, but is not all of reality, while the essence is what that thing is and what it can be. So I would describe essentialism as being the opposite or contrasting idea of, as I said, existentialism, but also other notions of how we perceive reality, which is being fixed versus process, of which you could describe essence as being a fixed thing, while with process you see those things as changing. And those strains of thought have definitely been contrasting and contradicting each other for a long time, but I see them as a more coherent part of the whole, but that is another discussion. In the meantime, I would say that the most important element for Plato was truth, and definitely important to Socrates as well, who is in this dialogue of the Republic, who is talking with characters such as Glucon, and realizing that truth really mattered to Plato. Plato wanted to know what something really, really was. He didn't just want to see the projected image on the screen, or on the wall, or in the cave. He wanted to be able to contemplate things for real, and see things in their true essence. Now, a lot of these ideas are very abstract, and you might be wondering how they influence your life in day-to-day existence, and that is a very valid question. I can express that for me, I actually really like the notion of essence. I wouldn't necessarily like the notions of things being fixed, and definitely in philosophy later on, this notion is challenged. But I do like the idea of something really being inherent to someone or to something, and that thing being inherent. I like the idea that something could be beautiful, that something could portray a characteristic or a possibility or a reality. And I definitely like the idea of reality as being something that is definitely inherent and beautiful that we can explore by way of contemplation. And that was definitely Plato's project. Plato wanted to understand what the truth was, just as his friend Socrates always wanted to understand the truth. And the truth is very important to how we look at things in Plato's worldview. The reason why it is so important is because we are thinking about how truth influences everything that we do, and that the way that we can really live life fully and morally, and in terms of even justice, is by having these notions of what truth is, of what something actually is. The truth is very, very important to Plato, and it is important to me. And while the truth is hard to find, and while the truth is not the only mode of discourse, as we know from the Sophists, I definitely encourage you to check out that episode as well on Sophism. There is a way in which reality is still very much fixed, and it's very much a beautiful thing. And fixed doesn't have to be bad. Fixed just means something that we can count on. It is something that is stable. It is something that is real. So yeah, I'm Phoenix, and I hope that you enjoyed this talk on the notion of essence and of the allegory of the cave. And may we all be able to find our own truth and discover the truth, and may we be able to contemplate things in a beautiful way, and may we be able to see the light of reason. So yeah, I'm Phoenix, and definitely keep a lookout for future videos in the Philosopher Series and on my channel. And yeah, thank you for watching. I will see you next time.